Wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed him. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling.
Well, they say good things come to those who wait, and we waited long enough to have Mr. Joey, the UFO Magnet, on here. Last time, his UFO friends fried all my EV equipment and had to get new stuff from Amazon. I think he's working with Jeff Bezos at this damn point. But he's here, so welcome everyone to the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast. Hit that subscribe button. I forgot to put it up. Yeah, see, hit the subscribe button. For the love of God, hit that subscribe button.
Do it.
Yep. Like, comment, and subscribe, some might say, but you don't have to comment. Check me out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all the stuff. It's on BobbyDizzle.com. I'm tired of waiting. I want to hear about Joey the UFO Magnet. Joey, how long have you had these objects following you? I didn't get that in the bio, or I missed it.
Pretty much my whole life, man.
Whole life. Wow. I didn't know if it happened after like a certain event happened to you. Like sometimes people have like near-death experiences.
Right.
And they just kind of like Michael from Long Island Bigfoot. So yeah, your whole life, huh?
Yeah, as far back as I can remember, I've had strange things happening.
Now
there was an event that kind of spiked it up a little bit later on, but
okay. Do you know what they are? I mean, are they the same thing every time? I know you have several different hours. I could say a video.
Man, I'm like a miniature walking skinwalker ranch. Just a little bit of everything you could imagine. Everything.
Hey, man, your channel is just eat up with them. It's wild.
Right.
So, but you've never seen like the beings themselves or anything like that?
Well, it's tough to say. I've had a couple of encounters where I'm pretty sure that I was dealing with something else that kind of portrayed itself to be a human.
Now, does that just come like in? What am I trying to? I was going to say, does that happen in just the UAPs that you see, like the UFOs, or do you have like cryptid encounters too?
I've had a couple of cryptid encounters. I guess you would call them that. Anyway, there was one instance where this lady was jogging while I was outside, working with my telescope, and she came. A lot of people jogged by there and walked by there or whatever because it's right by the high school. And I was out there one night getting some shots of the moon, and this girl came jogging towards me down the hill that looked exactly like my daughter, my oldest daughter. And
wow,
that was kind of creepy. And as she got closer, I'm looking at her. I know it's not her, obviously, but she lives 45 minutes away in a town called Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And so the closer she's getting to me, the more she looks like her, except she had shorter hair, I think. It was about the only real difference, and it was tripping me out, man, the closer she got. And she did 3 passes as she jogged by that night. And I'm trying not to stare at her or anything. It was hard not to because under the circumstances. But when I'm outside with my camera, like especially when it's nighttime or getting towards nighttime, I try not to look incriminating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Best case scenario, you're dealing with you're being seen as a creep, and worst case, it's a doppelganger.
And little did I know the creep I was dealing with. Creepy. But anyway, she made 3 passes, and the very final pass, she would jog for a minute, and then about every 20 yards or so, she would stop, and no matter which direction she was facing, whether she was jogging up towards me or past me already, about every 20 yards, she would stop and almost robotically turn right towards me and stare at me for about 10, 15 seconds. And then she'd turn around and go back to jogging. And so about every 20 yards, it's pretty often. And I didn't know what was going on. She thought I was trying to take pictures of her or something. I don't know what the deal was, but it was creeping me out at this point. And I had moved up to my porch. I was out kind of by the curb. And I moved up to the porch to, lessen any kind of incident that may have occurred.
Yeah.
As far as that went. And, she did that every 20 yards all the way back up the hill. My house sat at the bottom of two pretty steep hills. And so she came down it and then was on her way back up, stopping every 20 yards to turn around and look at me. And I didn't know what to think of it. She got to the very top of the hill, about to go over it out of sight. She turned one last time towards me. And when she did, her eyes were glowing bright yellow, like she had a lamp inside of her skull projected out towards me. And she stared at me another 10, 15 seconds with those glowing eyes, and then disappeared over the hill, and I never saw her again.
That's a long time to look at somebody.
Yeah.
And just think, like everybody think about 10 seconds, 10 Mississippi. That's especially with glowing eyes. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like a warning, almost like.
Right.
We know who your daughter is. We know your family.
All kinds of things went through my head. I don't know if any of them were correct, but there's so many things that I thought of at the time. But of course, one of the first things I did was get in contact with my daughter, and it was funny because the very day before, we were talking on the phone, and she had mentioned how she wanted to start jogging like a mile every day.
No shit.
To try and get back in shape after being pregnant. She had my first granddaughter, Sage, not too long before that. And I guess she was just wanting to get back into shape and get back into a routine or whatever, and tighten up. And that very next day was when that happened. It was kind of strange.
Oh my gosh.
She assured me it wasn't her, and that story still creeps her out. She doesn't even like me to talk about it.
Well, I can imagine so, because that means they were listening.
I don't know what it was, man.
So did she have cut her hair and you didn't know it?
Really, for me, it's another day.
Yeah. For you, it's just a Tuesday afternoon. Now, did she cut her hair and you didn't know it?
What's that?
Did she cut her hair and you didn't know it, and it was like a real doppelganger almost?
She has done that before, but she used to keep it really short like that. But she had started growing it out longer. Okay. So yeah, it definitely wasn't her. Maybe some bizarro world her. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it'd be wild if, like, it wasn't her, but she cut her hair the night before. You didn't know it.
Right. Yeah,
I think you told me that story before. I remember the glowing eyes part. That's right. Crazy.
Yep.
It really makes you wonder.
I guess that would be a cryptid, right?
Well, I
don't know what you really labeled that as.
Well, I'll put it over there in the Skinwalker shapeshifter area. That's cryptid. Right.
Somewhere over there.
Not somewhere a ghost.
Away. Somewhere away.
Yeah. Somewhere with the Navajos.
Yeah. Head back to the desert.
Yeah, I guess being where you are, there's plenty of Native American lore.
Right. Definitely. And I am a part Native American on Osage. Mm-hmm. Not a very small amount, but
yeah.
But it's weird because it seems like I just had one 3 nights ago, not even 3 nights, 2 nights ago. All of my greatest sightings and some of my coolest videos have all been on the Osage reservation, which is like within a couple of miles from where I sit right now. It's a huge reservation, but it starts right here past Sand Springs, where I'm at right now.
The old Osage Orange. Do you ever, Mike over here is, not Mike, but Roger is asking, do you have experience with orbs or is just UFOs?
Oh yeah, constantly. A lot of times I have several videos of this happening, but I can hold out my hand and, have my camera pointed whichever direction in the house or whatever, and say come to my hand, and about 75% of the time it'll happen. One will shoot out from somewhere and go right to my hand. I've had one pop out of my friend's head as he was. There's a video of that on my YouTube channel. He was. They call him the Orb Whisperer. What we used to say. His name was Lance, and anytime he came around me, he always wore his sunglasses because he knew I was going to have my camera up in his face the whole time. And sure enough, every time you saw this guy, I mean, anywhere, any time of day, you could turn your camera on around him, and they would be all over the place. You could catch them popping in and out of his head and stuff, like they were just riding along, having a good time.
Are there any like precursors to when you have like these giant? Because you've got tons, like I said earlier, you've got hours of sightings,
Yeah,
just
hours,
like
you know,
in the
thousands,
house.
thousands of videos. Some of them I've never even seen back again. There's so many.
Yeah. Like,
I have like
is there a
7.
precursor or anything to that, like a dream, or I guess
Man,
it'd get kind of annoying at this point.
I have had dreams where they kind of were a prelude to whatever it might have been, but that doesn't happen so often. More often, it's I don't know. I just get this weird feeling that tells me when and where to look. It usually comes on pretty suddenly. Sometimes I'll kind of get like I don't know what you want to call it, a download or something that'll tell me to be on the lookout for whatever, this or that, and it'll usually happen within a day or so. But most of the time, it's spur of the moment. You know, it'll hit me, and I'll get an urge to go look, and there'll be something flying over or hovering or something up in the sky usually.
Like,
But
is the
I do have a lot of ghost and orb encounters inside as well. It's not like I can go inside and get away from it.
Yeah, that's the craziest part. That's the craziest part is it doesn't matter.
No. Anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
Any place is susceptible to some kind of strangeness.
Is there any significance in the different colors and shapes of the orbs? Roger's chiming in.
I have had different colors. Most of the time it's like a whitish blue, which, I mean, they all seem harmless. I have seen other things that were not orb-like that may have seemed a little more malevolent, I mean, and but come to find out that it just kind of freaked me out so bad at the time that once I had time to kind of get used to it, because this one instance, the thing it hung around for like that one whole night and all the way into the next day. It was the one and only time I've ever seen anything like this. It reminded me of like when you see heat waves coming off of the hot pavement in the summer.
Like a mirage.
Yeah, it looked like that, but in a kind of humanoid shape. And the weird things that led up to it, me and my friend were sitting there in my bedroom. I had a fire going, and I noticed something, you know, for about a good 5 minutes before I actually opened my mouth and said anything to her. But I wanted to make sure it was, you know, I was really seeing what I was seeing. And it was hard to tell because it was like invisible, you know what I mean? You could kind of see an outline of something weird. But, and the thing about it was like, I don't know if there was a whole bunch of them or if it was just one that was really fast. Because this thing would be like here, all over the room, like in a split second, it would change position. You know, it's here,
it's
right
like the Silver Surfer,
all the way on the other side of the room, something like that.
Yeah, like a predator, like a
Right, yeah. That's what I guess you could really compare it to, is like a predator.
Wow, yeah.
And so I sat there and I made sure that I was seeing this, and there was a couple of weird things that led up to it. My roommate had I guess been in the backyard. They used to have to let their dogs out through my room because it went out to the backyard. It's like an add-on. And but for some reason this time she had gone. I don't know how she got out there really, but she had to have gone around from the front and jumped the fence, which doesn't make any sense. But all of a sudden she tried to come busting through my bedroom door from the outside with the dogs, and that had never happened before. So I'm like, what are you doing? And I had my door locked, so she didn't actually open it. But that was kind of strange by itself. But then there was this helicopter that came like immediately as soon as that happened. I heard a helicopter flying over, and it sounded like it landed on top of the house, and it was loud as hell. And all this is kind of happening at the same time. And then I see this weird light coming in from behind the closed curtains from the backyard. And it was immediately after that I started seeing this weird like predator type thing like bolting around the room. And like I said, I laid there and I watched it for about a good 5 minutes before I said something to my friend. And when I did, and she didn't catch it right at first, but she started watching real close, and she screeched all of a sudden. She saw it, and the first thing out of her mouth was carbon monoxide poisoning because of the fireplace. And I was like, we wouldn't even have a chance to know if it was that, you know. But she was just trying to come up with something, you know, logical right off the top of her head. And so was I. And I was like, I wish that's what I don't think so.
You know what it sounds like? Like when Chris Farley had that exhaust leak on Tommy Boy. Dude, we're stoned.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, we're stoned right now. Bees.
Right. But yeah, I'd never seen anything like that before in all my weird experiences. And we got a little frightened, you know. It takes a lot to weird me out anymore, or to scare me as far as that kind of stuff goes, but that did it. And
yeah,
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know what it wanted, and just the speed of it, and or like the numbers of how many there were. I don't know which one it was. I think I had the feeling it was just one really fast son of a bitch. but it was like he was trying to manifest, but couldn't do it quite all the way.
Mm-hmm. It has that shadow figure feel to it.
Right. I mean, he looked like he was made out of heat waves.
Mm-hmm.
And like he was halfway there, not even quite halfway into manifestation.
Was there like a shape of it, or was it just the waves?
No, it was. I mean, it was in like I said, a humanoid type shape.
I mean, was like any like details inside of it?
What's that?
No details inside of it, like faces.
No, it was just basically the outline of like a man, kind of looking thing, and made of heat waves, and maybe like little tiny sparks, maybe even every once in a while. It's hard to describe, but heat waves is the best description I can give you. Heat waves in a man shape.
Yeah, and I got it.
Actually, I got the thing on video. It's really hard to detect because it was a cell phone video, and it was kind of dark in the room, and we were just sitting there kind of in the corner on the couch watching this thing for hours at this point. And I'll admit, for a little while at first, I was afraid to move. It really got to me. I hadn't been that scared since I was sitting in the bathtub, and my towel started shaking when I was like 9.
Yeah. Did you say it was for hours?
Yeah. I mean, that thing hung around up until all through the next day. Even I could see it.
Oh my God.
Darting around. Eventually, she fell asleep, and I stayed up. I couldn't. I wasn't going to sleep with this going on. I couldn't, and it was not only kind of frightening, but two, it was very interesting to me because I'd never witnessed anything like that before, and I was trying to study it. And as time went by, I got to where I wasn't as afraid of it, and I kind of embraced it and even coaxed it into manifesting even more. Once it was just me sitting there, and I could kind of focus, and I was over the initial shock of it. But it never manifested any further, and I never really made any contact with it that I know of, any significant contact or conversation or any kind of communication with it. But it was on me the whole time. Like at one point, the sun had come up, and it was probably 9 a.m, and I went to take a whiz, and as soon as I turned around to walk out of the bathroom, I actually almost fell over backwards. Like when you turn around and there's someone right there. Whatever it was right there when in my face when I turned around, and it knocked me backwards, and then there was nothing there.
Man, that just seems.
I don't know what it wanted. It was trying to get my attention for sure.
I mean, it wasn't malicious or anything. It obviously let you live.
I thought it may have been at first, but it was just the initial shock of it. Once that all went away, and especially after the sun came up and my room's full of sunlight, it's a lot easier to take on something like that. But it hung around all through that day. I could see it even better, of course, and with the sunlight shining through. And it just kind of started to slowly fade off as it went into late afternoon into the evening. And I've never seen that again since either.
Have you ever had like a psychic or medium reading to find out if like you have some kind of?
All the time.
I'm sure you have.
I do that as often as I can.
It just seems like you're like a beacon of something. Like you haven't been hurt by it. You're obviously fine.
Right.
Other than Jack-o'-lantern girl, there's nothing been scary happened to you.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that that's the whole reason that maybe that they show themselves to me or try to show themselves to me and kind of follow me around is because I think that, well, I think they choose people that can handle it first off, which has been a long process throughout my life of accepting these things. And, you know, I'm learning a little more every day how to cope with them and what to do with what they're trying to tell me or what their point is or their message. Like on my Facebook page, I call myself a spiritual gatekeeper. I'm pretty sure that house was some kind of gateway, like a Skinwalker Ranch or whatever. There's several portals all over the place that exist that I know of, and I can kind of sense one when I'm near one. I'm not exactly sure what to do with that information, but I can sense when I'm near some kind of portal or some kind of opening, gateway of some sort. And
maybe that's like a skill you have to sharpen, like
right,
going in or making it bigger.
Right, and that's how. It's one of the reasons I talk to a lot of mediums. I have a lot that are my friends already anyway, so it's always good to get their advice.
Cindy here.
Who's that?
Cindy Herrera Mobley.
Oh yeah.
And she said you go to a lot of mediums.
Yeah, that girl has a lot of strange things going on constantly too.
Have to have her on the show. I love hearing strange things.
Right, she's got plenty of them too. That she originally got a hold of me because of that. I get a lot of calls out of all over the world. Really,
I bet
people sharing their stories and people that are afraid to tell anyone what's going on because they're afraid of being ridiculed and called crazy most of all. And so that's why I started my second Facebook page, Anomalous Anonymous, where it's a place where people can contact me if they have something going on that they can't explain, and I can kind of work them through it, and they have someone they can tell to without being judged or called crazy, basically.
I think fortunately nowadays
doing that.
Yeah. Fortunately nowadays, I think it's getting a little more open for people to have those kind of experiences and stories.
It is. And I'm glad to see that. I'm not nearly as crazy as I was 5 or 10 years ago.
No, you're middle of the road to me. This is a normal dude. Normal guy that works in the oil field.
Yeah.
He sees UFOs. What's the big damn whoop? Big whoop. Want to fight about it?
Want to fight about it?
Big whoop. Yeah. So I see alien crap. Big whoop.
Yeah. And that's the attitude I've always had about it,
Like what, you don't?
It's like you can call me crazy all you want, but if I'm crazy, so is my camera.
Yeah. And the 50 other people I talk to that say the same shit.
Right.
Yeah, I've been doing this for over about a year. Like seriously, I did a podcast for like 2 years before that. But like I talk to people that have your experiences with like they have them with ghosts, they have them with Bigfoot, they have them with UFOs, just normal people named Randy, those guys, salt of the earth. And yeah, it's not an anomaly anymore. Like I'm getting to where it's like anybody that doesn't believe it a little bit. I mean, just if you're just not like cresting the hill, I'm just think you're just ignoring the evidence. Or
that's always been the case. I mean, they've always been there. They're not really hiding. Like people kind of think about it. They've always been right in our face. It's a matter of how much you pay attention.
And we discussed earlier. Roger asked earlier how long this had been going on. It's been going on all his life. Just kind of gradually ramping up. But I asked you if there was any kind of trauma, that might have caused it. But I wonder if, like, the last 3 years, people have been kind of just exhausted, like physical, like mental trauma, just from all the worry. I wonder if that's like a reason some of it's ramping up lately. Like the veil's kind of thin for everybody, just like 15% more, just right. One notch.
Well, it's like the Mothman episode.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of sightings of Mothman again, supposedly, especially around Missouri. There's been a few here in Oklahoma and a few random spots around the country and around the world even. But it seems like Missouri's where he's really been popping up lately. And Mothman, he appeared in West Virginia back in the day, leading up to that bridge collapsing and killing all those people. Mothman, so it seems, likes to feed on the fear and the destruction that happens from whatever kind of event. It seems like it's like all the buildup, all the tension. He's there feeding off of it, maybe not causing it so much, but aware that something is about to happen and is absorbing that energy. It seems like. And the way I always describe it to people who don't really know the Mothman story or whatever, it's like when you take a wooden ruler and bend it. You know, you can only bend it so far, and you get that point right before it snaps. That's what Mothman is feeding off of, for whatever reason. And I think that we may be in for another pretty big, good-sized disaster, possibly in Missouri soon, with all the.
It's in Missouri, Mississippi River. There's a fault line.
Right. I don't know, the arch.
Yeah. Their barbecue is kind of trash because they put pancake syrup on it.
Right, it's too sweet.
Yeah, dude. Just learn to smoke meat. You don't have to cover it in Aunt Jemima's. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Missouri. Get it together. Your football teams all suck besides Patrick Mahomes. I don't count NFL. I don't count NFL as real football because they don't have to play the Tide. But, if the NFL is so big and bad, why don't you schedule Bama, Mahomes?
I'd like to see that.
Anyway, I just did that for my fans that are gonna attack me now. But Double D.
I know everyone's waiting for an OU response from me, but I can't stand OU, man.
It's okay.
I've lived here most of my life.
You're good. You're good to go. I'd stand by for Red Fern Groves references later, but not now. And but Double D, which kind of would like to see more Double Ds, but heard Mothman's being seen at Chicago O'Hare.
What's that?
It's kind of did you see the comment? She heard Mothman. She or they heard Mothman was being seen at Chicago O'Hare.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
You know the commonalities here. Kansas City has bad barbecue. Chicago has bad pizza. I think Mothman feeds off bad local cuisine.
Oh man, yeah, right.
Look at West Virginia.
Funny.
You got those.
That's funny.
You got those damn
Chicago pizza, man. I hate that stuff. I mean,
West Virginia had those sausage rolls. What are they? I mean, Mothman just going to places with a terrible local cuisine and making Richard.
He's feeding off of the distress that the people have after eating it.
They're sitting there with Pepto-Bismol, like, oh, sweet mother of God. And here's Ingrid Cole.
Kill me now.
Where's Richard Gere when you need him?
Oh God. Hope we never find out.
Yeah. Richard Gere and his infinite. I love that movie, by the way, Mothman. When I went to college in 2005, 2004. Oh, it's a good one. There was like a period of about 10 years, like 98, 2005, where the like these little dark dramatic horror movies came out, and they were just amazing. Like a couple off the top of my head, Mothman and Dragonfly with Kevin Costner.
Yeah, I was
very similar
to horror movies.
It's kind of like
me and my mom used to, on the weekends we'd sit there and we'd watch ones like Motel Hell and stuff like that. Where they're growing sausage out of people, or like
Human Centipede,
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That was kind of a lesser. They've made a lot of pretty good, cheesy, actually scary clown. Tremors 3 with the walking graboids. I never saw that either.
Well, they
it's hard to sit down long enough to watch a movie all the way through. It's got to be something really good.
They had the one Tremors that
I usually end up, if I go to the movie theater. If I go to the movie theater, I end up usually about a quarter of the way through. I tell whoever I'm with I'm going to the bathroom, and they end up finding me out there playing pinball after the movie's over.
playing in the Coke machines, mixing vanilla Coke and Sprite, trying to make the perfect combo.
Oh no, I can't do vanilla. Chocolate's where it's at.
Blood-sucking freaks.
Put that on your blog.
Yeah. What was the one with Chris Pratt that came out last summer?
Chris who?
Chris Pratt. Tomorrow War.
Oh, I'm not.
Where they went into the future to fight these white goat-looking animals that shot teeth at you.
Really?
And come to find out they froze like in the Arctic 10 million years ago, and climate change freed them up, and it was crazy. It was really good, but it was made like almost in the same vein of like Sharknado. It was a really good movie, but it had like the same. It had that same wild premise.
Snakes on a plane.
So somebody turned the orbs down. I can't see the TV. That's funny. I've been on this kick just trolling people about Chicago pizza and how bad the Goonies was lately.
Man, that Chicago pizza, I don't know who came up with that idea, but
it's a casserole.
Not a fan.
Face
it's an
the
abomination.
fact.
Like kind of like labradoodles.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just tell that they know they shouldn't exist. and they're not happy about it.
Labradoodle's the abomination.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Let me guess, you have one, right?
There's a golden doodle here. I don't know if it's the same thing.
I don't have a labradoodle, right?
No, there's a golden doodle here.
In your house?
Yeah.
Really? I'd like to see that. I've never seen one of them before.
It's looks like Chance from or Shadow from Full House. Same kind of dude. It's a golden retriever. It's kind of fuzzy.
Interesting.
I didn't really want another dog. Whatever. We compromised and got another dog.
Right. It happens sometimes. But that kind of reminds me of another funny story. A friend of mine has a job basically sitting and living in houses that are on the market for sale here in town. And she had a pretty nice one at the time. It was over by Southern Hills Country Club. It's a nice golf course out here in Tulsa. And she was going to have a pool party a couple of summers ago. So we all piled in over there. And on our way out there, another friend of mine that I was riding with, we were talking about, I don't know how labradoodles came up, but it was almost the same conversation me and you just had. And I'm talking about it being abominations and stuff, whatever. We go into the gas station to get something to drink at one point along the way. And we walk back towards the fountain machine, and there's nobody back there. And I got about 10 feet from it, and all three ice makers started shooting out ice all over the floor.
Really?
Which I've never seen that happen before, but I don't know what the deal was. It happened again the very next day, too, at a totally different store. It happened 2 days in a row.
Damn.
So I don't know what that was about, but it's kind of an odd thing that happened. But after we got over there to the house, everyone was swimming and stuff. And at one point, everyone got out and went into the garage probably to take a toke or two. And I stayed out there by the pool. It was just me, the pool. And I look over in the yard next door, and there's a labradoodle staring at me after I'd just been talking all that shit about him all the way over there. He's just staring at me like, man, this fence wasn't here.
Ice machine. The ice machine thing reminds me of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie.
Right? Yeah.
How that little kid's toy started running around.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
Yeah, just another one of them things.
The ghost of the labradoodles.
And I always wondered if that was actually a labradoodle sitting over there in the shadows next door. Or maybe it was that thing with the yellow eyes in a different form. Who knows?
What if labradoodles are the aliens, and that's how they finally manifest themselves?
It wouldn't surprise me.
They sent down the seeds through evolution 10 billion years ago when it finally manifested into its pulmantic. What's the word pulmantic? The pedantic? I don't know. You know, like the coup de grace. Like
B-rated.
Yeah. They labra the doodle.
Like a what's his name? Michael. The guy that played Batman.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Like a low-end Michael Keaton friend love story movie or whatever.
18 Wheels wants to know if you've experienced UFOs sneaking behind you, or do they mostly reveal themselves in front of you?
Oh yeah. Actually, a lot of times when I notice something in the sky, first thing I do is look behind me, because a lot of times what I'm seeing that's getting my attention is a distraction.
Wow. Yeah.
And that, and like probably the best story I have as far as that goes is, which is another video on my YouTube channel that's labeled "This is not an airplane," and this was about 4 years ago now, maybe 5. I was living in an apartment over on about 91st and Memorial here in Tulsa, and I spend a lot of nights out on my, outside with my telescope and my camera, and I just got a new telescope at the time. So I'm sitting out on my front patio, and I'm kind of looking at the moon, trying to zero it in. And I noticed there's a neighborhood right across the street from us, and like a gated neighborhood. And I saw something with two like baby blue lights on it that were flashing, flying, portraying itself to be an airplane, but it had two baby blue lights and nothing else on it. None of them. I can't remember now if they were flashing or not, but it seems like they were. Anyway, it was flying, looked pretty low over the neighborhood across the street, and it kind of disappeared, into whatever the trees or whatever it was up in the distance. And I sat there for a minute, and I got that feeling to go look. And we're the very last row of buildings in that complex at the very back. And then there was a pond right behind, like a storm runoff drainage pond, and which is where the talking goose thing happened too. Anyway, I had my DeWalt spotlight out there with me, and had my phone turned on the video camera, walked around the back side of my building, and came around the corner like a cop, pointing that flashlight and my phone camera at it. And that thing was there, and except it looked like a giant ball of light, and it was hovering just a little over the power lines, but it was coming towards me, and I was like, "What the? That thing's sneaking up on me, what the fuck is going on?" And right in front of my face, it did just like a Transformers thing, and it transformed into this weird airplane. It resembled an airplane, but it didn't look like any airplane I'd ever seen, And so now all of a sudden, and it also kicks on an engine noise where it was silent the whole time before. And so now it's the engine screaming, and it sounded odd too. It was way off from a regular airplane engine, but it flew right over me, and it was so low that it looked like it was going to scrape the roof on the top of my 3-story apartment complex. And it flew directly over my head. And you can see in the video, I've got my spotlight right on it as it flies right over, and almost scrapes the roof, and then flies off into the distance for a long time. And the further away it got, instead of getting smaller as it trailed off, it got bigger.
And it got bigger as it trailed off?
Yeah, it got bigger as it went off into the distance. And I have to say that is the only time I've ever felt any kind of fear or some kind of bad intent off of one of these things. That thing scared the crap out of me, man. I don't know what it was about it. Basically the whole sneaking up on me part. It was like, what was it going to do if I didn't notice it and walk around there? And how many times has that happened before that I didn't notice? And why is it doing that? What's its intent?
That almost sounded like a MyLab or something.
What's that?
Military. Kind of operation.
Right. I think a lot of these things that I see are kind of like the one the other night, where it starts off as an orange sphere, floating around the sky, and then all of a sudden it'll do the same thing. It'll flip on a flashing green light and engine noise, and it'll fly straight towards me, and just look like some sort of weird either airplane or helicopter.
There's more than one person I've heard said that they see something. There'll be a helicopter show up 10 minutes later or 10 seconds later.
Almost every time that I have a significant sighting, there's either 2 jets or a helicopter, or sometimes all 3 that show up immediately afterwards.
That's not significant at all.
Right.
That may be the scariest part of it, honestly. I'm sure you're probably used to seeing stuff. I couldn't be.
I don't know what they're going to do with the helicopter, after something like that's darting around like this in the sky. Impossible to catch. I don't know what they think that a helicopter is going to do with that.
Well, there's only two options. Like they're either with them or they're chasing them, and no in between.
Right.
It's like some kind of entourage or something kind of like motorcade of sorts.
Well, yeah. Sometimes it seems like they're being escorted, and sometimes it seems like they're trying to chase them off or whatever. It's hard to say. I think every case is a little bit different, though. So it's really hard to judge. And there's so much activity from so many different directions going on right now that And if you're someone like me that's real sensitive to this kind of stuff, then I mean, you got it coming at you in your house constantly. I mean, everywhere you go. The podcast I did right about the time that our first original one was scheduled. We went into my grandmother had just passed at the time, and we got into talking about her, and I was actually in her house at the time. We are kind of fixing it up to get ready to sell it, and I did a couple of podcasts there from her old leather recliner right there in her living room, and we got some pretty good EVPs when they were asking me questions, and they were, whatever it was answering the question right before I did on several occasions. It was plain as day, and it stood out a lot. It was pretty cool and kind of creepy at the same time.
Yeah, I bet if you went out in like the middle of the Navajo reservation with nobody for 50 miles, I bet stuff would just start going nuts.
I had the opportunity to go out to Blind Frog Ranch about a year ago. It kind of fell through. It didn't end up happening yet, but I'm told that it could possibly still happen in the future. With a friend of mine, Gentry, she was going out there for, kind of extended periods of time and got into a lot of cool stuff out there. And she told me all about it, but I never actually got a chance to make it out there yet. But it's, are you familiar with Blind Frog?
It's like the little skinwalker.
Right. It's right next door to it, apparently.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it at the time. And so, she started going out there and telling me about it. And then I watched the show, of course, kind of leading up to it. But it's pretty interesting what they got going on out there, too.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's going on out there, because it's Utah, isn't it? Skinwalker Ranch, Utah.
Vernal, Utah.
It just makes you wonder.
Because a guy, a real young documentary filmmaker, has got in contact. I guess Mindy Topfest from the Oklahoma MUFON chapter, and now she's dean of MUFON University.
MUFON University.
My first case that I reported, but she had done a piece for this documentary for this guy. I didn't realize when she told me about him, he was wanting to get in touch with me about the video I had of a ferry. And so she said, this documentary filmmaker is wanting to get in touch with you about this and that. You want me to give him your number? And I said, sure, go for it. And I didn't realize he was 18 years old. At the time, I was thinking, I don't know why, but some older, established whatever, you know what I mean? And it was an 18-year-old kid just out of high school. So I talked to him, and
hey, mister.
We never ended up. We talked a few times, but I think I gave him permission to maybe use that video in something or whatever. But I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and then I found out right about the time I was supposed to go out to Blind Frog that his name popped up on Facebook, and he had moved from here he was originally from, I think, North Carolina, and he had moved here to go to move to Norman, which is like a college town where OU is. And next thing I heard, he lived in Vernal, Utah, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, really? How'd you end up there? It was just
the Lion's Den
job he ended up getting, just took him there. It was a total, random thing.
Makes you wonder what kind of job it was to just go to Utah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I asked him because, I was curious. I don't remember what he said now. It's been a while.
Maker of Books of Mormon.
Yeah, possibly.
Stitching them together.
Yeah, could be.
So do you think if you went to a place like Blind Frog or Skinwalker that your I'm gonna say the word powers, lack of a better word.
It would be crazy.
Do you think it would ramp you up or you would ramp it up? Or
we'd feed off each other, man. It'd be a party.
Powers. It's like Captain Planet.
Right.
No.
It would be crazy, sure.
Your powers combined.
My lighting in here is getting kind of scary, actually.
Swear to God, if you fry this dock, I will call the police.
Oh yeah, why don't you tell everyone about that? Because you're the third one in a row that happened to, or I guess Anthony was the third from unidentified.
It happened to Anthony. It happened to Anthony too.
Yeah, we had to reschedule that one too.
Holy shit!
The first one, it wasn't actually right before I went on like you guys. It was during the editing process of the ones with the EVPs in it. Totally fried out her stuff. She couldn't even get in into her system to edit it. She had to.
Yeah.
I don't know what she ended up having to do, but it was all kinds of messed up.
There's
too.
your victim.
What's that?
There's your victim. Little USB dock.
I don't know what's going on with that. I do know that I put out a little more electricity than average people. I've used different meters and things, and a lot of times electronics like batteries and stuff will drain real quick around me, and a lot of times they'll go completely dead from whatever I'm filming. I'll go out.
I've never had that kind of stuff happen before until I started doing podcasts with people who like were telling the real stories, and all of a sudden my Wi-Fi would go out.
Right.
But yeah, like with you, like before you even came, we were texting and this sumbitch broke.
Yeah.
Like it was it'd been glitchy since I had it, but I was always able to reset it, you know. But that day it stopped working. Like it's like, nope, not going to do it. Turned into Dana Carvey. Wouldn't be prudent.
Not gonna do it.
Not going to do it. And I almost resorted to using my webcam and just doing it like that. I was so damn mad that all the stuff I had was broken. I was like, I'm not
going to go. These lights in here, man. Sorry, go on.
You're good. You're good. Wendell
sure?
says you're part Bigfoot. He's something.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm yet to witness is a Bigfoot. I've been more open to it lately, and I've actually gone out looking. Not necessarily I set out to look for Bigfoot, but while I was out hiking or whatever it was, I like to make arrowheads and stuff. So I do a lot of flint nabbing. So I go out rock hunting a lot.
Yeah,
and I've actively searched, and actually called out, said, "Where are you at?" I still haven't seen one yet, though.
That's what I was saying. Like, I wonder if you just went out
for most of my life.
If you just went out like the reservation, it's like a area in the middle of it, and just camped for 3 days. I wonder like how much stuff would happen. It'd be wild. You and your thoughts and no electronics.
Right. I've kind of experimented with that before. My ex-girlfriend, she was from Venezuela, and she had never heard, and you may not have ever heard the story about the little people either, though you should, since you're from Alabama, which is where most of the Cherokees came from.
Cherokee little people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Skeelies, they call them, which are basically these little race of people created by the medicine man to help, they say, around the land and stuff, do physical
Definitely
labor.
heard of them.
And when he passed away, then they kind of scattered all over the place, not sure what to do with themselves. And I've actually seen one of these things before, going out towards Tahlequah, which is the Cherokee capital here, basically in Oklahoma. We were going down the highway one night. It was real late at night, and we lived at the NSU campus, Northeastern State University campus, in the family housing out there. And we were driving from Tulsa out there, probably about 12 or 1 in the morning. And up in the distance, there was this about, I don't know, 3 or so foot tall, ripped little Indian looking guy with long black hair. Now, you remember the show In Living Color, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Davidson.
Yeah.
He'd always play like a kung fu, and how he was real tiny, but he was ripped. That's exactly what that thing reminded me of, like a little Tommy Davidson with long black hair, no shirt on, just standing there on the side of the road. And the closer we got, he kind of ran off into the weeds. And a friend of mine that lived right above us at the time in those apartments, I told him about it when we got back there, and he pulled up some pictures on his computer and showed me where he had caught what he thought was one of them in the reflection of his bumper one night. And it looked like one to me. I mean, as far as I could tell, who knows if it really was. But
what did the hair look like on those?
Hair?
Yeah.
It was like mine, but solid black.
I mean, do they look like they're basically just little, like literal actual people? They're not like
like little Indians, pretty much.
Okay, so they're not like akin to the Pukwudgie from Mexico that look.
No, they're not like leprechauns or nothing like that.
Yeah. Because anytime I think of the Cherokee little people, my mind goes to Pukwudgie, and then I start thinking of the brownies from Willow.
Yeah. but so this girl that I was with, she found out about it, and I kind of went along for the ride. I'd never heard the story before, but out past, there's a Hard Rock casino out here that they built years ago, and kind of just outside of Tulsa. And there's a place, if you go a couple miles past it, out in the middle of nowhere, it's called Redbud Nature Preserve. It's a place with a pretty cool place. It runs, Bird Creek runs next to it. It's got cliffs and, you know, all these caves and stuff in it. You can go walking around. Really cool place. Totally stands out geologically, you know, from everything around it.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of it before. So we went out there and hiked around several times. And then she told me this story that she had heard somewhere about one of the bridges that you cross over. There's a series of 3 bridges you cross before you get to this park. And the third one was called Carla's Bridge. And the story was that in 1976, I believe, I think she was like 14-year-old girl went missing, and they ended up finding her body right there underneath that bridge. And supposedly she still haunted it and this and that. So, you know, I'm all about a good ghost story and a good ghost story.
Yeah.
So
all day.
it was like early October, not far from where we're at right now, but it was starting to get cold. You know what I mean? We get out there about 11:30 midnight, and we lay out our sleeping bags right underneath the bridge, right on the concrete. And we parked the car kind of across the street because we didn't know if we would get in trouble for being out there or whatever. And it's kind of out there where if a cop was to drive by, then, you know, he'd probably be interested in whatever the hell that car was doing sitting there.
Why are you in the middle of the area with just in the middle of the road?
And I didn't know if, you know, how popular that story was, or the legend, you know, around there. I didn't know if they constantly had people coming out there to test out these theories or whatever. And so anyway, we parked kind of across the road and down the road about not quite a quarter mile, and right in front of someone's gate to their pasture, I guess, probably where they got access to feed their livestock maybe or something. So we thought, you know, it was a pretty good, decent spot to park. But so we're laying there, and I'm telling her, I got my camera and stuff, audio stuff all set out and ready to go. And I'm telling her the story about the Skeelies. And she had never heard that, you know, about that before, being from South America. Of course, they have their own version of that. I think everyone has some kind of version.
Oh, yeah.
People all over the world. But as I'm telling her this story, I stand up and I'm walking over towards the weeds to take a whiz. And
weeds to take a whiz.
On my way up, I grabbed a handful of gravel, and while I'm standing there using the bathroom, I'm tossing out, you know, little pebbles all over the place into the weeds. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to keep skunks and stuff like that from sneaking up on us." And she goes, "Oh, I didn't really think about that." And I said, "If anything starts throwing rocks back at us, we're getting the fuck out of here," you know. And 3 seconds later, ting, 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 ting.
Oh shit!
Ting, 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 something was throwing rocks back.
Skunks don't throw rocks.
No, man, not as far as I know, but maybe Pepe Le Pew was out there in the weeds, for all I know. But I did get several EVPs that night too, what sounded like a girl's voice. And on top of that, we had some visitors a couple times. Someone would stop their car right on top of us on the bridge. They got out several times. I don't know if it was the same person or not, but the first couple of times they just kind of shined a flashlight down there left and right all over the place, and of course they couldn't see us, we were right underneath them, but they never went far enough to like climb down there and look. So anyway, they'd shine their flashlight and then leave, and a while later it would happen again, and we didn't know if it was a cop or what, so we just shut up and stayed still until they left.
Yeah. But
the third time, same thing, stopped the car, flashlights. Then we heard a gunshot, and that kind of freaked us out. We're figuring a cop probably isn't just going to fire their gun off in the air. You know, if they have to report those shells. So then I'm thinking, oh shit, maybe this is the guy who owns the gate to that pasture. Maybe he's wanting to get in there or something. All these thoughts are going through my head. And we heard a couple more shots, and then we heard the car door close, and they drove off. We decided that our little adventure had gone on long enough. At that point, it was probably 3:30 in the morning, and it was freezing anyway. It's like 40 degrees.
Party's over.
You're right. Time to get
shots have been fired.
So we pack up all our stuff and hike back up to the car real quick. When we get up there, one of the tires had been shot out, and the window had been shot out, and they'd broken in, and we had all kinds of stuff piled back there. We were in the process of moving, and like I had my guitar in its case, like right on top of the pile of stuff. She had her Macintosh computer, and just a bunch of random stuff. And she was also working at a gentleman's club at the time, and she had her clothes for work in there. The only two things that these people stole were her little bag of underwear and her computer. my guitar's laying right there in the case, right on top. I don't know why they wouldn't have taken that. If they were going to break in and steal stuff. I mean, it could have only been like one of two things, either a guitar or maybe a gun. Why wouldn't you have taken that? Instead, they took panties and
they shot the window out.
Yeah.
That seems like a very inefficient way to get into a car.
Right. They were amateurs, apparently.
Local folk drinking.
Local yokels.
Yeah, slack-jaw yokels. Rubes. like anytime anybody came on the Dukes of Hazzard from out of town, look at you, rubes.
Yeah.
Like, dude, no one says the word rubes.
Exactly.
You rubes can't get anything. So when you see the actual, like, other than orbs, do you see the craft like as like the metallic look?
I
have a follow-up question to that one.
Trying to fix this lighting here.
I was kind of creepy with the darkness, just to see your
I
head.
know. I couldn't figure out if that was better or worse.
Ambience.
All right, what was the question again?
It's like a two-parter. I had something in my head. The conversation's amazing, but I had stuff in my head that if I didn't get it out, it'd be pointless talking to Joey, the UFO Magnet.
Right.
But the David Fravor Tic Tac and the gimbal footage.
Yeah.
Are those things? Are things like that? Do you see those like on a regular basis?
No, I'm pretty sure that's been altered, that whole Tic Tac thing. But I mean, if you really think about it, like they have the cigar shaped crafts that they talk about, and all these different certain shapes, the discs, the cigar shape, the Tic Tac. If you think about a cigar shaped craft, I mean, all that really is a saucer from the side. So
yeah,
the Tic Tac thing, I'm pretty sure that's been altered though. I think I've even read somewhere that was definitely altered to put out there, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Those seem way more like the My Labs we're talking about. I think I'm misusing the word My Lab. I'm basically talking about military reverse engineered alien technology.
Yeah.
My lab means military abduction, which is not what we're talking about. But
yeah, I've never.
So in that same vein, what do you think of crop circles? Like, what are they?
I don't know. There was a point where I thought that they were probably hoaxes, but the older I got, the more I woke up. I realized that was all a crock of shit. But I don't know what they were trying to. I think there's some kind of attempt at communication.
Yeah, probably another part of the galaxy. It's like a big deal. Like we plainly right there in that field.
Yeah, like us sending out radio waves. They're like,
yeah, like guys, we put it in the field.
Pick up radio waves.
There's a literal kaleidoscope in your wheat right now. What do you want?
It's got to be some kind of message, or I don't know. Maybe it's like their version of a song that they're trying to share. Who knows?
I can just hear the aliens in their language.
Knows, and I mean, they're just not saying, telling us.
Yeah.
About it.
Like a Close Encounters. Do 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 do.
Could be
somewhere an alien that sounds like an Italian's going, "We're sending them the crop circles. What more do they want?" Can you not see the crop circle? Stupid monkeys can split the atom, but they can't freaking read a crop circle.
Right. Somebody can, I'm sure. Maybe Bob Lazar. Who knows?
Oh, Bob Lazar. What do you think of him? Is he real? I mean, I think
a lot of things out there. I think Stephen Greer or Dr. Excuse my language, Dr. Peter Gazer. I think he's totally false information.
Yeah, it's
he's done a lot of work. Tons and tons of work out there, but unfortunately, most of the work wasn't his. But
like, what do you think of the CE5 thing in general? Like the think about it real hard and they show up. Kind of sounds like what you do, but not. I don't know.
I know it's real because I do it. So I mean, I can attest to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that what you do? I mean, or is he making like a mockery of it?
No, I mean, for the most part, the information he puts out there on that is all true. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I hold sky watches, and I have, you know, on my website UFOMagnet.com, I offer professionally guided, you know, UAP spotting sky watches where you can book me for an hour, 3 hours, whatever, whole night, whatever you want. And if you've never seen anything, you know, any kind of craft or being or whatever like that, then, you know, I'll show you one. I can almost put 100% guarantee on each one of them. But I mean, because something happens every time. But then I've gone out to Vegas and done a big one out there for Joshua P. Warren called Cosmic Invocation,
Mm-hmm.
where he put 12 tickets up for sale for $200 a piece. We had a NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory employee out there who's a ticket holder. Fox 5 News, and the news crew spent all night out there with us in the desert, staring at the sky, which was cool. But like I hold sky watches with different UFO groups. There was one in particular from Oklahoma City I did about a year ago, and we went out to this hill out in Broken Arrow where I've had like the disappearing crane sighting happened in front of the 4 MUFON investigators, and there's just a lot of weird things about this hill. There's a series of 3 hills right there. The rest it's all flat completely everywhere around it. So
Mm-hmm.
these geologically they kind of stick out, you know what I mean? And there's just something magical for some reason about this one hill in particular. And so I like to go out there, and it's nice. You have like a 360-degree view of everything around you. You can see downtown from there. You can see like the Hard Rock Casino Hotel off the other direction. You have a good view all the way around. It's right in the middle of the city, and there's a lot of light pollution and stuff, but it's a pretty cool place right there in the middle of it all to go check out. But it just makes me sick when like a lot of people in that group did. Nothing against them personally, but this thing with Greer, man, where he has his app, you know, you can buy for $20 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It helps you along through the process of the CE5, but you don't need that. You don't need an app. You don't need him whispering in your ear while you're staring at the sky, you know. All you gotta do is focus and believe pretty much, and you don't need to pay for the app. You don't need him whispering creepily in your ear telling you to focus and whatever it is he says on there. But these people were trying to use that, and I was like, man, please turn that off. I'm going to show you how to do this without that. I mean, it's real simple. Anyone can do it.
Start knocking phones out of their hands. Get that shit.
All right. Well, I mean, sometimes I'll have one in each hand recording stuff. But
I was able a few years ago I thought I was doing it. I may be just full of shit and be in the middle of a meteor shower, but I could go up my backyard and I'd go into my garden and water it at night for like an hour, you know. So I had to stand by and make sure it was all working. So I'd hang out there like on a bucket, on like a chair, and I could concentrate. And if I concentrated for long enough, shooting star would happen. And I could almost make it go in the direction I wanted it to.
Yeah, that's the thing. I get those constantly. I get a lot of like lime green colored ones. It seems like.
Yeah, they were all lime green. It's like yeah. Big fireball looking things.
It's weird though, because I mean, I can be standing outside with 6 or 7 people, and one of those will go off, and I'll be the only one that sees it. And sometimes there will be like 3 in a row, and I'm like, "Did you see that?" And no one. Everyone's like, "Huh?" I did have a guy, friend of mine, come out one time. He was talking with his ex-wife, who was now with another friend of mine, and they have a daughter together, and he was coming over to do something, you know, had to deal with their kid. And he actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but he actually worked as an employee for NASA somewhere for a couple of years. I think he had gone to the Spartan school here in town, pretty big aviation school. And I knew he'd worked for like American Airlines or whatever, Boeing maybe, something like that. He was in the aeronautics industry basically, but I didn't know he'd worked for NASA. And while he was over, he noticed, I pointed out a couple of things to him. Like I think one was Venus, or what was supposed to be Venus, and this is something I've seen over and over again throughout the years. What's supposedly Venus in the sky, which is very noticeable, you know, probably the most noticeable thing in the sky besides the moon if it's out. I've seen it split into 3 different pieces that revolve around itself and things like that, or it'll lazily float, side to side, and sometimes come in look like it's getting closer and further away. And I've recorded that on video several times, and so he's noticing this stuff, and he also went to TU and took every astronomy class, he said. So anyway, long story short, he ended up walking around with me outside over by the high school and all over the place, my normal spots I would go for like 4 or 5 hours that night. Just in awe, he got to see a little bit of everything that I usually witness when I'm, in a session when I'm out there, the green shooting stars. And the thing about those is it's not like a shooting star, off in the distance. It's like in the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's there.
It looks like it lands a few houses down sometimes, but you saw the Venus thing, you saw the green shooting stars, and it just went on and on all night. And he wrote me the next day. He was like, "Man, you really are the magnet, dude, because I haven't seen nothing since that night, But I'm always looking, and I've been telling people, it's like people they just don't get it when I try and tell them about these things that I see and that are going on. They just look at me like I'm stupid. He's like, "What is wrong with people?" And I said, "Now you know how I feel."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Man, I've been telling everyone, spreading the word, but he said I haven't seen anything since, but every night when I go out to take my dog out, I take some quality optics with me every time just in case." He said, "I'm on the lookout."
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty cool little review, I guess, of a night where someone did actually.
Makes you want to do a time lapse almost.
Because a lot of times that kind of stuff won't happen around some people. Some people I know, I can take them out every night for 2 weeks straight, and just nothing will happen in front of these people for whatever reason.
They just don't believe. They didn't clap hard enough for Tinkerbell.
I guess
it's their problem. It's like you're the glitch in Wreck-It Ralph. Like he calls everything to happen. It's like you're the glitch on Wreck-It Ralph.
Rick and Ralph.
You remember it's a cartoon Wreck-It Ralph is about being inside of a video game. You must not have young kids.
Yeah, I do. I don't remember that one though.
Yeah, it's got John C. Reilly. He was a big video game character.
They're not real young anymore.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. Like one of the characters is a glitch that causes everything to mess up when it gets around him. Like you get outside, you cause the simulation to glitch.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like me.
It's funny. John C. Reilly is the main character. Worth it. Very funny.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. It'd be funny with a couple tokes in you.
Yeah.
Definitely, because it's kind of meta about video games. And so they like go inside Call of Duty and Jane Lynch is in it. It's weird.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's
Jane
funny.
Lynch, huh?
Yep. She's an action hero.
And I don't watch many movies. Like I said, it's got to be something really good to get my attention. I'm kind of ADD.
Yeah, I got that way too. It's movies about the only thing that keeps me going if I can't get past the first 10 or 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
If it hooks me in.
Something's got to happen in the first 2 minutes or I'm out usually.
I hate it when it's a slow burn. I think that's the why I like going to movies in the theater so much is because I can't leave.
Oh, you can. I proved it. I know. I've seen me do it.
Oh yeah, you're outside playing pinball, mixing vanilla Coke.
Well, one time I actually, it's a funny story. It was my one of my first dates with what ended up being the mother of my oldest daughter, and I pulled the same thing. I might have started it about that time. I don't know. But we went to see a movie, like our first or second date probably, and I told Bill, I got to go to the bathroom, be right back. You want anything? Ended up playing pinball. Then I actually went out to the truck at one point to take a couple of tokes, and in the process locked my keys in there and didn't realize it. I was back inside playing pinball again, and the movie was about to let out. I saw people coming out, and I realized that my keys were in the truck still. I went out there and I spent the next 15 minutes trying to fish them out with a hanger, and didn't end up getting them out before she came walking outside, and I got busted.
Like you went on a mini adventure. I got distracted.
That could have been a movie by itself,
Yeah. Do you when the ADD hits, do you take a lot of caffeine to make it stop pinging around?
When what?
I mean, I think I have ADD. I don't think it's as severe as some people, but I definitely have it. I definitely have something, and I'm a caffeine addict because of it. Keeps me.
Yeah, I don't really do caffeine much anymore.
I mean, look at my channel name. That's
Yeah,
what
I
happened.
noticed
I ended
that.
up I ended up drinking copious amounts of coffee and talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah, I like the name you finally landed on.
Yeah, the one I had, I
I'm the
liked.
same way. It's hard for me to decide, what I want to. It's hard for me to make a final decision a lot of times because I'm never satisfied with anything. Everything can always be better.
The
So,
universe kind of made this decision for me. Like only people I could get to respond to me were mostly Bigfoot people and folks in your genre and ghosts. So I'm like, I'm just going to call it something cool like that because
right.
it was always based around caffeine in one way or another because that's what I do. I get myself so geared up on this stuff.
You
I
ought to
can't
come out with your own line of it, like Zach Wild did. Your own
It's
brand of
coming.
coffee.
It's don't get
I
ahead.
don't need to spoil your surprise if you were already in the works. Oops.
Once that's
Forget I just said that.
yeah, it may be a year down the road, but that's definitely there's local coffee shops here in Huntsville. And
What would you call it if you were to do that?
I don't
Not
know. It
put
just
you on the
depends.
spot like I am, but
It would depend on what direction my fan base took it. Like it'd have to be like I had like sayings and like people that called in the show said a certain thing, and maybe like the dizzle drip. There you go. That sounds gross.
there you go.
I got the dizzle drip. Well, we'll give you some antibiotics
I
for the
like
dizzle
it.
drip,
I like it. I think you
or
should go with
the
that.
Bigfoot
I don't
brew.
even want to
No,
hear a second choice. That's the one right there. Just that
no,
T-shirt would sell.
yeah, just a
You
drip
don't even
from the
have to
Diz.
actually make the coffee. I got the Dizzle drip.
They put me on some Z packs.
I was on the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast, and all I got was the Dizzle drip T-shirt.
Good God!
By
I
the way,
got
I'll be waiting on
bronchitis.
mine. It's in the mail, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to get your Screen Actors Guild check for that.
That's funny you mentioned that because I just got this text message yesterday from they didn't announce themselves or tell me who they were, but they said something about the Cobra Kai show or what. That's a show, right? The new Karate Kid thing.
Yep.
Isn't that like a series?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Right. They mentioned that and Bad Boys 4 or something like that.
Was it Martin Short?
The text message said with that happening going on and blah blah blah, they wanted me to attend a virtual casting call, and they had like a choice of times. I think like noon and then 2 and then 4 o'clock to do this virtual casting, like an audition. And I'm like, who the fuck is this?
Sounds like a scam.
I looked it up. I looked it up earlier, and it was from this talent agency called Nine Productions or something like that. And I read all kinds of reviews, and everyone said that they could never really decide for sure if they were a scam, but if at best they were an agency that didn't ever fulfill any of your needs as an agent or whatever, and they made you pay for everything up front. So it sounds like
that's the going. Like we pay you pay us $500.
Yeah, you give me 20, then I'll give you 10 back, and
quick change artist.
Then you give me the 20. But I actually did set up a time for it before. This is before I'd looked it up, and I was going to go through with it, and I finally got it out of them. I sent a couple messages back like, "Who's sending me this? It'd be nice to know because it seems like a legit company would announce themselves or have at least a reason or some kind of way that they got my number in the first place."
That's such a wide berth. But
I did have a TV show. I co-produced a TV show here in town at one point.
Yeah.
Back in the 2000s, it was like a green screen skit comedy show called The Biopsy Playhouse. So I did have a little acting time. I was horrible. We all were for the most part. There was a couple of them that were decent actors. Natalia was good. A couple of them, but for the most part, we sucked. It was like a really cheesy version of like a green screen Mad TV. A lot of it was funny, but a lot of it was, cheesy background.
Wayne's World.
That's what made some of it funny, but most of it was like kind of unbearable. But we actually got signed to a satellite network at one point, and we got all excited. We're about to go pretty big time, and we're about to, quit our regular day jobs and hire real actors and start building real sets and stuff. And I was doing interior trim carpentry at the time, And so, and I hated working on a trim crew with like 18 other people running around as fast as they can, tripping over each other, trying hoses everywhere, everyone trying to be faster than the other guy. That's just not my bag, man. I like to work at pace that needs to be worked at to make the work look good. You know what I'm saying? To do it right.
Yeah, I'm not.
So I was just miserable on these trim crews for the most part. It paid decently, and it got me off the roof. So that was a big plus. The original reason I went into it, but anyway, I was walking around those job sites with a big smile on my face there for about a month, and so we're all just about to quit our day jobs, and I think maybe even a couple of them had a little prematurely, but then we get word that some Christian network had bought out the network who signed us, and the first ones to be canned was us. So there went that. As soon as it happened, came and went all at the same time, as they say.
Man, that'd ruin. Sounds like something that happened to me.
And that's happened to me over and over again in every different area that I, like I'm a musician and I do all these different things. I've had some kind of opportunity like that, like come and squeeze right through my fingers at the last second almost every time throughout my life.
So now you can be on Cobra Kai and be Hawk stand-in.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to my friend yesterday when I was reading that message. I was like, I don't know what this is, but wouldn't it be funny if halfway through my life, all of a sudden,
all of a sudden I'm rubbing elbows with John Kreese.
I'm on the new Miami Vice remake or something real good.
So you kind of look like some of the guys from Point Break.
Point Break.
You got the cool hair and outdoorsy.
Right.
Like hanging out with Johnny Utah and Bodie.
I'll go for that. Hey, I think the dogs might have spotted a Bigfoot out in the backyard.
Oh no, go get him! I'll tell you what. It's been about an hour and a half, so I'll begin to let you go. But thanks for being on, man. This has been fun. I'm glad we persevered through your destroying my precious Amazon.
Right. I'm glad your equipment made it through.
Part of me wants to try it again and see if it works, but I don't want to put it next to my stuff again.
Right. Hey, we're not out of the woods yet, though. You got to watch that editing process. Apparently.
What if the power went off?
They'll get you there too.
Joke's on you. I don't edit this shit.
That must be nice. That's my favorite part.
Well, if I ever start doing it, I am going to start pulling it off and putting like a little best of clip at the beginning, like the shocker, and that's when the Bigfoot entered the tent. But right now I have a lot of, especially today. I didn't know if I was going to do this one live or put something up beforehand.
I didn't
you know what? I'm just going to take this and make it happen and get it out of the way because it's been like out there, like the carrot in front of the horse. I said, he's one of the more exciting ones I was going to have on. So I'm going to try to get it out of the way live. And plus tomorrow's Friday. So who cares?
I hope it's been one of the most exciting ones.
It's been.
And we didn't even scratch the surface hardly.
Yeah, I mean that's the bad thing about these. It's kind of like a preview to what actually happens.
Yeah, the one I did with Cheryl, Cocktails and Conspiracies. We went on until right before midnight. I think we started at 6, and
those days are over.
4 or 5 hours, and the only reason we actually stopped, we were talking about all kinds of things, like maybe having an all weekend like camp out, float the river type skywatch, which we never really got together yet. Maybe we'll get that together for next year. But the only reason we actually stopped the interview was because my phone finally ran out of battery.
Yeah, it finally died on you?
Yeah, it finally died.
I've done the 3-4 hour ones, and I'm just like, at the end of it, I'm like, this is not enjoyable anymore.
Yeah, we were having a good time. Of course, all three of us were drinking. That's kind of the premise of the podcast. Have a drink while you're telling your story. And
oh, yeah. I know when I do them on Friday nights.
Than others.
You want to know something funny? When I have guys from UK on, they always come on Friday night at 7, like around this time on Friday, because it's 1 a.m. there, and they're just getting hammered. They're already snackered. and so that's the best fucking guess. Is some guy from UK at midnight? He's like, "Hey, it's a right." One guy said, "I'm a right fat bloke. Look at my point." This guy's hammered. You probably know him. His name's Bob Sharp. He has a lot of the same kind of stories. God, I did it on a Friday night.
It was nice to kind of be myself, and you know, I'm not. I used to be a pretty bad alcoholic years ago. I'm not anymore. It's hard for me to even finish the whole beer now. But
Yeah, it's. I get 3. A 6-pack lasts me 2 weeks.
yeah, me too. I'll open one up and drink about half of it. It'll get hot, and then I won't even think about having the rest of them in there. About a month later, I'll drink another one. Maybe.
It might as well be melatonin.
It
It might as well be a melatonin for me because I'm just like, okay, I finished one beer and I'm just like,
and they raised the we were one of the only 2 states in the country that had 3.2% beer until just
3
not too long ago. And so yeah, I mean it's just a piss factory basically.
Ah, that doesn't sound enjoyable.
I don't miss those days at all.
That does not sound enjoyable at all. I got a hold of one that was 4 the other night. I'm like, is this even gonna do anything?
Yeah.
All right, Joey, man, thanks for coming on. Crank the music up a little bit, and you are UFOMagnet.com. Is that it?
Yes, sir. And YouTube as well. You can find me under Joey the UFO Magnet Storage.
Yeah, I need to put that in the description. Thanks everybody for watching, though. Thanks to
if you wanted some of my weirdest videos up on there, go check it out. And
yeah, it's got a ton of good videos, y'all. I'll put them in the description. I kind of rushed through it this while ago to put it up because I'm a procrastinator. Hence the ADD.
All right.
So yeah, thanks for being on, man, and crank the music up a little bit. Thanks everyone for watching. Let me put where's the good Lord? This is professional quality, people. Thanks again, Joey, man. See you later. I hope we'll have you back on soon. I want to hear some more about that talking duck.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Oh, yeah. Goose, yeah. Well, you know.
All right, I'll see you next time. Thank you.